Welcome back to the Smith and Hesson podcast, coming to you from Auckland in lockdown level 4. I'm Laura McGoldrick, and joining me is a very lucky level 2er, Ian Smith from the Hawke's Bay. How you doing, Smithy?
Well, I sit here in relative comfort and in the knowledge that I can at least go out. I can at least join my mates for a game of golf. I can at least have a cold beer afterwards in a controlled environment. So therefore, I am a very lucky man, and I feel sorry for all those people in Auckland. I really do. I hope they get some very good news shortly, and I feel very sorry for our colleague who you're about to introduce, who would like to come home at some stage, but at this stage doesn't know if he can.
Yeah, that's a bit of a problem for Mike Hesson, who is over at the IPL. Hes, how are you going? I mean, I'm sick of cooking. You probably want to do a bit of cooking. Can't do that in the hotel room. What's the plans for coming home?
Look, unfortunately, they haven't even opened up the possibility of getting an MIQ spot, which is pretty frustrating for anybody and everyone that's stuck overseas and trying to get home. So hopefully that'll open up at some stage and we can get in line and try and find a way back home before Christmas. So, but at the moment, our focus is very much on the IPL and living. Pretty lucky. Got a nice room here. We're in our little bio bubble, but I'm out of quarantine, which is great. So we can head to training each day. In our bubble, go and train, and then come back to our hotel. So, look, we're pretty fortunate over here in Dubai. It's 43 degrees, so training's relatively challenging, especially during the middle part of the day. And we actually got outside for a practice game yesterday, so the guys are pretty cooked. So today will be a nice quiet day.
Sounds like you need that after that. Smithy, the first game of this IPL is about to get underway. Chennai Super Kings versus the Mumbai Indians. That is happening on Monday, New Zealand time, 2 a.m. I know plenty of people in Auckland that will probably still be up watching it. What do you see happening in this second part of the IPL?
Well, some of the squads have changed, of course, so that's interesting. There's a lot of personnel who have not bothered to go back for various reasons. So I'll be interested to see what an influx of new players to certain squads will mean. But I kind of think that the cream is there at the top already. I don't think the sides at the bottom will make up enough ground in the short time that they've got to do that. So I see those teams in the 3-4 top places, and I think see them really fighting out positional stuff in terms of the player. So I think Hess's franchise, Bangalore Royal Challengers, are in a very prime spot, and I don't see them. I really don't. I don't see them having a problem there. A lot of players have. I think if you look from around the world, a lot of players have. The ones that have committed back to the IPL have got there in time. They've made sure that New Zealand players, in particular, Indian players, that they're there in plenty of time to get their act together. So. I look forward to it. It's quality. It's the best form of T20 cricket, I think, outside international cricket. So quite clearly the best players are involved there for obvious reasons. But I look forward to the start of it. It's going to be good.
Here's your opening match is versus Kolkata. Plenty of Kiwis in that. Lockie Ferguson, Tim Seifert, and quite late in the piece was announced that Tim Southee has joined that side. How are you feeling about the matchup? Are you looking forward to it?
Oh, look, very much looking forward to getting underway, to be fair. I mean, the fact we're playing KKR, obviously Baz will be there as well. So, pretty familiar faces, Chris Donaldson, Kyle Mills. So it'd be nice to actually, come across some Kiwis at the end of the game and have a bit of a chat. So, but yeah, they're a pretty formidable side in terms of they've probably got their 4 best overseas. And Lockie, I think, will probably be one of those. Back playing with, Sunil Narayan, back bowling nicely in the CPL. So, look, it'll be a tough game for us to start. As Smithy alluded to, we've had a few personnel changes in our squad as well, and we've got Winendu Hasaranga, who not many people in New Zealand will know a lot of, but he's been in great form the last 12 months, especially in T20 cricket, and he certainly gives us some options. And we've got a few new faces as well. So. Our hotel's filling up with players. We've still got 3 or 4 in quarantine at the moment, and we've got a couple of bubble-to-bubble transfers sort of at the last minute. So just trying to pull the squad together. a couple of days before we play that first game is, certainly going to have its challenges. But yeah, can't wait to take on the KKR boys.
A lot of moving parts with COVID and everything that's happening around the world and how people get to join the bubbles and what have you. But Smithy, if you were a player in this current climate and you know that you've got the second half of the IPL and then you've got the T20 World Cup just a few weeks after, the IPL, if you have the opportunity, despite it being a very long time away from your family, is the perfect way to build into that World Cup, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's worked out well, actually, because, you're going to get used to those conditions. It's perfect for, I would think, a lot of international coaches that the bulk of their better players are actually doing the right thing in terms of getting to know everything, getting acclimatized. They'll be able to pass on knowledge about conditions, about opposition players, and about things like targets, what's good targets in these conditions, and don't get overawed by the fact that you have to get 1 million runs every time. That it might not be that way on this type of pitch. So there's a lot of advantages to that. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of international bodies have said, look, go ahead, play it. You can miss international parts of international tours for that reason, because at the end of the day, you'll benefit because you're getting your IPL money, but we might get IPL knowledge out of it as well. So it's been an interesting scenario. I read even an article just recently. Hess, you might be interested in this, from David Gower, saying that the Indian players had basically abandoned the fifth test at Old Trafford so they could get there for the IPL. There's all sorts of theories and skullduggery behind the scenes being rumoured, but what is your take on that? I mean, you've got players who are there almost ready to go in the IPL that could effectively have just been finishing a test match, but have you had a take on that?
Well, there's actually no effect to us at all, because they actually come out of isolation at the same day they would have if they had the bubble-to-bubble transfer. So, in terms of the idea that they left to get out of, to prepare for the IPL, it just doesn't work. I mean, they come out on the 17th, whereas if they finished the test match, they got on a plane, there would have been a bubble-to-bubble transfer. They would have actually got out on the 16th. So we would have actually had our players available a day earlier. So, once again, I haven't had a chance to talk to the players, but there's a whole heap of different rumours and stuff floating around. But the truth of the matter is that the players are not out of isolation and don't join their IPL teams until later than they would have even if they played the test match. So I guess we look at it from that point of view. And from a coach's point of view, we work backwards from our first game in terms of how many trainings we could potentially get into them to get them back up to, T20 match practice and back in the zone, really. So we've actually probably got one less training than we would have had.
Well, let's talk about some Kiwis now. The Blackcaps fought back in that final match, although lost the series 3-2. A dominant performance from Tom Latham, the captain again, and Ajaz Patel really led the bowling. Smithy, what did you make of the end of that series? What can New Zealand take away from it, do you think?
I think there's some good signs. I think it was pretty much a certainty we weren't going to win the series. One, with a slightly depleted squad, but two, the conditions coming out of a New Zealand winter, coming out of nets in Christchurch or Indoor Nets or Mount Maunganui or wherever. I don't think for a start that they were anywhere near favourites going into any of those games. So the fact that they got experience out of it is the good thing. I think we still saw that people like Tom Latham and Henry Nicholls, Will Young at the end, the guys that are in line to play higher cricket perhaps sooner than the rest of them, they were the more quality players there because they've been around. They're heady players. They know to adjust their sights when it comes to batting in particular and to pace themselves through an innings. And I think those players and their performance was not surprising to me. Nice to see some young names for the future. McConkey, of course, was one. Ravindra is another one. And, of course, Ajaz Patel, who we're going to talk a wee bit more about to the fore. So it showed that given the conditions, our spinners, who are not used to them as well, just by the by, were able to actually perform and restrict Bangladesh for 2 or 3 pretty handy performances. I would, if I was leading that tour, I wouldn't be disconsolate about the fact we lost the series. I'd be thinking about the good things I got out of it. If I'm unlucky enough to strike those kind of surfaces in the future, I'll be better for it.
Here's as a coach, when you are coming up against surfaces like they did in Bangladesh, what do you say to the likes of Ravindra, who, there's been a lot of talk of him and what he's done in the domestic game here in New Zealand, and there were high hopes for what he might achieve over there. But how do you sort of taper expectation when the surface is such as it was during that series?
Yeah, it's a good question, Laura. I think you have to temper expectations in terms of, hey, I actually can't play anywhere near the same style of cricket that I can at the Basin Reserve or any other ground in New Zealand. I have to turn up and I have to develop a new set of skills. And, as Smithy alluded to practice it at, at Lincoln or Tauranga is actually far better than doing it indoors, but it's still very fake. And the thing that was so good for me was from the first game where we were really badly exposed and it was a tough surface, as they all were. The improvements that we saw throughout the series were notable. And they were notable, especially with the bat in terms of players making the necessary adjustments. Ravindra, even though, look, he never got a big score, he got a 20 off 20 balls, which was his highest score, but he started to look more assured. He started to look more like he had a game plan that would allow him a level of consistency over there. Now, to get any level of consistency on those surfaces is challenging. But I think he started to develop the necessary shots to say, hey, if I bat here, if I come here again, I can prepare accordingly. I've got in my head, I've got those experiences in the back of my mind that how am I going to get off strike? How am I going to find a way to get off strike, which is incredibly difficult, which in New Zealand, you just go whang and you just hit one of the offside sweeper and get off strike. You don't have the pace to do that in Bangladesh. You don't have the pace to just get back and work one on the onside for one. So you have to be able to manipulate the ball, and whether it's a sweep shot, whether it's coming down the wicket, whether it's getting deep in the crease, it's different for every player. But all of the New Zealand batsmen, majority of the New Zealand batsmen started to show real improvements in those areas. You can still play the odd big shot if the bowlers miss, but it's more in between balls how you get off strike. So I was just really pleased to see that batting group evolve throughout that five T20 series, and Tom Latham was absolutely the standout. But I thought Will Young's development throughout that series was really important as well, because he is a player that potentially could take over from Ross Taylor in that middle order, and the fact that he's been exposed to these conditions will be so important for his development.
The Blackcaps have now moved to Pakistan for 3 ODIs, 5 T20s, and it's a hugely important series for a lot of reasons because it's the first time a New Zealand side has been to Pakistan in 18 years. And it's a lot. It's a lot for the players because they've heard the stories, but, obviously things have been put in place and the players are being well taken care of. Smithy, you actually toured Pakistan in your playing days. What does it mean for teams to be back there playing cricket again?
Well, I think it's hugely important for Pakistan cricket for a start. They've been patient. They've had to play a lot of their cricket away from home. There will be guys that have had full international careers there and not played on their home soil, and that's pretty tough to digest. However, having said that, they also know the environment that they live in is pretty volatile. There's been all sorts of issues and troubles over the years for not just touring cricketers, for people in general. So it's been a tough watch for them. So it's huge for them. For us, I think it's also very important in terms of the development of the game. And whilst it's quite daunting and it might even be just a little bit unnerving to some of our players who are experienced that level of security for the first time, it'll probably do them good in life, to be honest. At the end of the day, they'll get home and they'll think, gee, I'm glad I did that. I don't think there'll be too many of them say, well, that was weird and I never want to go back there again. I'd be surprised. I think they'll be very well looked after. I think they'll get the best of the best. Imran Khan, of course, is the Prime Minister, former great Pakistan cricketer. He does not want anything to go wrong there. He'll be doing his darndest. They will be surrounded everywhere they go by soldiers or police with high powerful weapons. Their buses will be inspected on an hourly basis for anything that might possibly go wrong. The security at the hotels will be unbelievable. And maybe even overwhelming, but that's the way it's been designed. It'll be different to life. As you say, I haven't been there since about 1996 when I was a commentator in the World Cup. But I remember going there with Grant Nisbet, who's toured the world doing rugby, and he was absolutely bamboozled at just the difference in lifestyle back then. So it'll be an eye-opener for most of them. But it'll be good cricket. It'll be much better playing cricket conditions than the other guys experienced in Bangladesh. The pitches will be better. The outfields, the grounds will be more superior. And the opposition will be more challenging in a conventional way because that Pakistan side is full of very, very talented cricketers, particularly their own condition. And the good news is they'll be playing against the side in conditions much more like they're going to be experiencing for the T20 World Cup. So I don't see too much downside of it. Once you've got over the initial aspect that you're actually there and you're the first team to be back there for such a long period of time, I actually think they'll enjoy it. I hope they do.
I do too. And the first match, the ODI, the first of that 3-match series, gets underway on Friday, 9:30 on Sky TV. It will be one to watch. Important to know, though, that the ODI series will now not be a part of the World Cup qualifiers because the DRS is not available. How much does that affect things if you're on the ground playing the game, Hess? I mean, frustrating, sure, but...
I think it just shows how important, that world one-day ranking list is in terms of not getting under pressure to qualify for the next World Cup. So, New Zealand have made that decision, and rightfully so. I think in terms of, there are no neutral umpires. Pakistan's going to be a tough challenge as it is. And without DRS, they've obviously decided, look, we don't want to play this series under those conditions and for it to count in terms of the rankings, in terms of points. So, but you've still got really important one-day internationals to play. And a lot of players have got a chance to really push their case forward for cricket in the future. There's a lot of opportunities there for not only those that went to Bangladesh, but also a few more as well. And Pakistan will be a huge challenge. A lot of very, very good fast bowlers in Pakistan at the moment that will challenge our top order. And if there's a little bit of movement off those surfaces, then as I said, we will potentially get exposed, and hopefully we've got exactly what we need to combat that. But it'll be tough cricket. Pakistan are in a bit of turmoil in terms of their coaches have changed. Sick Lane and Abdul Razak have come in as interim coaches. And I think we know, Pakistan often play their best cricket when there's an element of turmoil around them. So I think that it's going to be a tough series. If New Zealand was to win this series, I think it'll be a fantastic effort.
Let's talk a little bit about Ajaz Patel. He was one of the standouts in that Bangladesh series, and he's had some success against Pakistan in the UAE. Smithy, have you loved what you've seen? I just love the big smile on his face every time he goes out to play the game. You can tell how much it means to him to represent New Zealand.
Well, he's been a bit of a victim, really. And when I say victim, I mean, he's just been a victim of New Zealand conditions. He hasn't been guilty of being left out of sides because of poor performance. In fact, he's more consistent than most. And at the moment, he seems to be the best spinner we've got in the country. And when I say spinner, I mean someone who actually does turn the ball given the conditions. Of course, Mitchell Santner's probably our best white ball slow bowler, but he doesn't spin the ball. So that to me, his development is fantastic. His zest for the game, as you say, he plays it with the right attitude, with a smile on his face. He treats every opportunity to play for New Zealand as last, and so he's going to go out there and do his darndest. And I really look forward to the further development of Ajaz Patel and the confidence to include him more in our starting lineups.
Let's hear from Ajaz Patel about his time against Pakistan in Dubai.
I guess I couldn't have dreamt of a better debut.
Catch it! Yeah! Goes for that sweep shot and first wicket for Ajaz Patel.
To pick up a 5-for on debut.
Yeah! It's all over, but wow!
To take the last wicket and to win by 4 runs.
Big appeal! It's given it! What a win! What a win! First test match, and what a test match for this man.
It felt so natural. It didn't feel like, oh, here we go, it's the Blackcaps and oh my gosh, the world's on your shoulders. It was more just, hey, you're playing for the Blackcaps, let's go out there, have fun, we trust you, you've got the ability, so, here's the ball, do what you do, and let's enjoy it. Since then, if I look at the journey that I've been on, it's been quite special. It's had its ups, it's had its downs. It was tough because obviously you're missing out on opportunities to play for New Zealand, and there were some good tours there that you kind of feel like, well, if the calf was right, you probably would have been in with a shout. The calf injury was quite a frustrating one for me personally because I went through it 3 times in a row. I would come back and redo another area of the calf, come back and redo another area of the calf. So I guess in some respects, I look at that and I go, well, it's just unlucky and unfortunate. I think the main thing is not to dwell on it. I guess you move forward and you look at what there is to come ahead, and there is a lot of cricket to come. So it's just for me putting my best foot forward and then trying to regain that opportunity to get a contract again.
Played a lot of cricket with Ajaz over the years, so to see his game come on leaps and bounds, I suppose he's had a lot of success with the red ball in his hand, but he's bowling really well with the white ball too, and learning his craft really quickly. So he thoroughly deserves these opportunities.
First wicket, he's on day bird. Patel, look at that smile.
Your variations come into play a lot more when it comes to white ball cricket, and also trying to get a read on what the batsman's going to do next, because the game does advance a lot quicker when it comes to white ball as opposed to red ball. So it's just making sure that your mind's switched on and staying ahead of the game constantly. It's great to be able to bounce ideas off other spinners, and as spinners we do love talking spin bowling, so it's a bit of a nuffy occasion when we are all in one place. It's a nice opportunity to I guess talk about the finer details of spin bowling that other people might not understand or go, oh, we don't want to talk about this. Pretty cool to kind of be involved again with the Blackcaps and be back touring with the Blackcaps.
Look forward to watching, like I mentioned, that first ODI on Friday night, 9:30 on Sky TV. Now let's talk about the White Ferns. Their tour of England continues. They lost their final T20 in a very close one, going down by 4 wickets, with England scoring the winning runs with just 1 ball remaining. It was heart-in-your-mouth stuff. It was great. Smithy, I know they didn't win. I know that, and that's what we wanted to see from them over there. But to get close, to get these close games and the experience of getting there, that has to be beneficial, right?
It does. It's better. It got better. That's the promising side of it, Laura. It actually picked up in terms of its performance level and its consistency level on the back of the fact that the star players, the top order players, started to perform. And we need that. I mean, the depth is not huge outside what they've got now. There are some very young players in there, and of course, they're going to take time to develop. They've got around about what are we looking at, 6 months now away from a potential World Cup performance at home, which is hugely important to them. So the signs were better. That's what I'll say. It looked like they were competitive against England. It looked like they tested England. And certainly, just as we praised the New Zealand men's team, the Blackcaps, for the way they improved and learnt from Bangladesh, I think we've got to give the same sort of accolade to the White Ferns. There's still a lot of work to do. They're still, I think, probably 4th or 5th in the world in terms of favouritism. But those kind of things will stand them in better stead. And when they get home with home support, etc., they may well cash in on that and take those memories of this performance away. But it can't stop there. The trend has to continue. They can't rest on that. They just can't take a step backwards now because they were that far behind.
We move to the ODIs. It's a 5-match series which starts on Friday. Now, if you look at New Zealand's statistics when it comes to the old ODIs, from the start of 2019, they've won 2 out of their 18 matches. And Hess, as a coach, you have to be thinking that's probably just not good enough.
Yeah, I think we all know that, Laura, and I'm sure within the group they know that as well. I mean, it's been a pretty tough watch. I think the thing is that over an ODI cricket, you've got to perform your skills over a longer period of time, obviously, than T20. T20, you only need 1 or 2 players to stand up on the day, and you can get close. And what I guess we all want to see in this ODI series is that more players are contributing. The Susie Bates, the Sophie Devine, the Amy Satterthwaite, those are very good players, but we can't rely on them all the time. We need your Maddie Greens, we need your Tamsin Newtons, we need Katie Martin to step up again, and she showed some really good signs during the T20 series with the bat, and I think she's got plenty to offer in that middle order.
Absolutely. Look, Smithy, I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Hess. We've got so much cricket coming up, so I know we've got more to chat about very soon. But for now, thank you so much. Hess, best of luck over there. Go well.
Thank you.
Smithy, enjoy the golf
very
club.
Much.
Yeah, I am, Laura. Oh, Laura, I'll tell you what I'll do. This weekend I'll pop out and have a round on your behalf. How's that?
Please, that'd be great. I'd love pictures, and look, that'd be great. If you could send those through, that'd be great.